I was wiping down the countertops, but Deshaun said most of the countertops are fine, but I'm just gonna do like organize and put some of the stuff away anyways. It's not done. When it talks, when it talks, dirty girl, baby. When it talks, when it talks. It's
course, that is all the walls of the world. That is setting the tone for this upcoming arc. First of all, it of course reinforces the whole the world is a full place angle, which we've heard many times before. What's more is that with the Beast Titans slowly coming into the picture, now more than ever, Titans can and will literally just encircle us out of the blue. So I think it's just a good visual representation of just how quickly the tide of battle can turn. Another thing that I really loved in this one is how well it pulls out the characterization of our main cast. We see everyone prepping for battle, and in a number of subtle and not so subtle ways, the series immediately shows us the dynamic of their squad. For Mikasa, we only see her put on her scarf, which, as we know, is the most important thing to her that symbolizes her connection to Eren. We see Sasha helping Connie get dressed, which again just very neatly shows their sibling energy right away. We see Reiner gesture for them to get a move on, which again calls back to us hearing that he's a great leader. We see Hanji put on her glasses slash goggle thingy, something that has long been used to convey intelligence. We then literally stand behind Erwin, just like all the scouts following him, etc., etc. In like 10 seconds flat, it reminds us of who each and every one of these characters are, something that is, again, probably pretty nice to have considering the 4 years. And we also have plenty of cheeky foreshadowing here. Like we see Astoria looking shocked, that is then directly preceded by a shot of Amir with a Titan behind her, which, you know, certainly isn't sus at all. Almost as shocking as if her best friend turns out to be a Titan shifter, huh? Also, the shots of the armored here are absolutely incredible and certainly get you hyped for the inevitable clash between them. Especially with the still frame we get at the very end of Eren standing against him, which, by the way, also chooses to depict the heart beating within both of them. We'll touch on this in a second, but it just continues the theme of everyone in this story having a reason for what they do. The armored might have attacked Paradeep seemingly out of the blue, but just like Eren, there is a heart beating inside. It might be a cruel act, but from his perspective, it is not a mindless act of violence. And in a similar vein, all of the shots of the scouts we get here are absolutely incredible. Like the shot of them all dropping from the walls onto the Titans literally gives me chills. And just like with Darren and Reiner flashing, we also see the scouts all standing shoulder to shoulder with that same flame burning within their hearts. Which one obviously symbolizes the whole dedicate your heart aspect and how there's this fire burning inside all of them. And two, it potentially could also be seen as some neat foreshadowing to how the Beast Titan operates. Something we will touch on in a second. I also remember that back in the day, the shot of this baby's hand was a point of contention, as there was a split in opinion of whether or not it's purely visual symbolism, or if it's an actual character. So this time, let us leverage hindsight and get to the bottom of it. First off, I do think there's a strong case to be made that is just that. A visual representation of what we see in the story following this point. Again, a small baby holding a parent's hand is just about as pure as you can get. But a moment later, the whole scene is literally incinerated. Something that would just yet again cement the whole the world is cruel angle. Though, I also think there's a case to be made that this could be baby Eren holding Grisha's hand, and the incineration part is that little thing called the rumbling. Something that would also back up the whole Eren is the child of the devil angle. Though I also think there's a case to be made that this could be Zeke's hand, as P2 now becoming into the picture and the whole split in Grisha's life would become very important with the song. But I also think that considering the motherly imagery we saw at the very top of the opening, this could also be King Fritz, the man who basically started the story of parody as we know it by constructing the walls and creating the vow to renounce war. And because this almost idealistic vow would now be broken with us entering what is a very explicit war, the scene is now just completely incinerated. And yes, it is still not over, because I also think there's a case to be made that this is Astoria's baby way into the future, and the whole it burning away is rather showcasing the sort of light at the end of the tunnel, and how even in a story as dark as Attack on Titan, there's still purity in these smaller things. Especially considering that Astoria's baby in-universe can also be seen as a symbol of a new beginning, with it being born during or soon after the rumbling. So yeah, I think there are plenty of ways you can interpret this. What you can only interpret one way, though, is the shot of the scouts charging the Colossal, because the only interpretation here is badass. With Mikasa pulling a Levi versus Zeke move here and charging in solo. And while that in and of itself is incredible, the shot of Mikasa grabbing Eric mid-air and throwing him at the armored is absolutely key. We've already seen a few shots of the scouts launching off of each other mid-air, so this is very much that. Just further proving that the ODM gear movement system is still unmatched in coolness factor. So the final shots we get in this one are a series of Beasts and Zeke, the Titans trampling people with said Beasts. This opening as a whole does juxtapose the hunter and the prey quite a lot, so this could also be a way to just convey that. The world is a cruel place, and so we just see the natural order of things. Hunters going after their prey. Only problem is the giraffes are herbivores, so they don't eat meat, so they're not really predators, but anyway. What I find far more interesting here is the potential foreshadowing toward the rumbling, because,
Mango and Godly Sprinkler.
these are lumbering beasts
Yep.
trampling the world which were awakened by Zeke's scream? Now, don't get me wrong. Normally I would say, surely not, right? No way that the opening of all things would foreshadow something as big as that. But, the ending did. So, yeah, this opening really slaps. As for the title of the episode, The Beast Titan, I really don't think there's much to read into here. Zeke basically kickstarts the entire Season 2 to 3 story, and this is the first time he appears, so yeah, The Beast Titan. Moving into the episode itself, we once again open right where we left off in Season 1, with Erwin 2 now learning of the Titans within the walls. With Erwin, though, things are a little different, as unlike Hanji, who is more so stunned by the sheer number of possible explanations and the research that she can now carry out, Erwin is sort of two minds about this. Obviously, he's just angry about this just being yet another case of someone keeping information from them for some bogus made-up reason while they're literally dying out there trying to learn anything they can. But at the same time, with what we learn of his childhood later on, he is now yet another step closer to finally confirming all of those theories his father talked about. Just like with the revelation that the female Titan is just a human, there being Titans within the walls just lets Erwin pin another bit of string on his corkboard, if you will. It might raise countless entirely new questions, but clearly we are beginning to peel away at the layers of completely unknowns. We then cut on over to Marlo and Hitch, who are on cleanup duty after the clash between Aaron and Annie. And here, we very much see how this was almost their trust and trial by fire. First off, they discuss how they're probably just going to cover all of this stuff. With Marlo, he's asking how and why. With Marlo, we've already seen how he has his dream of cleaning up the team, and endless corruption we've already seen with him. So with him now, they're going to see how they're completely been worried about covering on something that's even this magnitude. I mean, two Titans literally just fought a very protocol. For Marlo, this is just a very good awakening of how hard of a task he has to do. For a non-top player, he has far more. And another feature note here, he knows how to do Marlo is running a soldier persona. It's all done. Just a couple of episodes ago, I heard about how she's going to get big So just like with Marlo, this is a very good relationship where that's going out to up. There is a cloud of ignorance. And so, just like Aaron brought back the crop, especially when you could tell the lot of down under the mechanics. You basically have these very simple regularities always with people like that.
Yeah, we're still for the plant.
It's not something not only tight, but also how the walls were built.
Or versus the plant back to a city. It's that
Also,
same.
at first, that somewhat trivializes all of her accomplishments. You know that feeling when you spend like 2 hours trying to figure something out, and you come up with your own solution. It's like somewhat wrong, but then you how to do it in a far more simple way. Yeah, you still figure it out on your own, but I mean, come on, it does something trivialize what you did, right? And that is controversial. And another thing that I found really interesting here is how Hanji is portrayed. Because she straight up don't lick off the wall, but they're like, obviously, we know that basically all of this now is public. So why is those walls exactly what we expect? That is better for she could have thrown it back on the wall. Oh, I was just let Air with you. But no, she breaks character and basically spells out that she has no intention of harming rather focusing on Hanji's tells us because she's one of the weekend but after his best he sits down asking, so are all the walls made out of titan? Then he explains that's almost finishing by saying it's pretty scary. And oh boy, I just love how unsettling the whole thing is. This is not us. It is literally just because this is pretty scary. And something about that just seems so much more uneasy than if it was made out to be some sort of huge deal. Because this is Hanji, the absolute brains of the scouts, it more so just makes us feel completely powerless. As if everything they'd worked for was only revealed to be the very tippity top of the iceberg, and it's her just saying, I don't even know where to start with this. Though suddenly, just like the scene in one when Walmart with Bell, we hear the bells ring out as Thomas arrives with the message of Wall Rose has been reached. Just like we've seen many times, it just further establishes that cyclicality. What's worse, that back in the box, we already learned about how moving Wall Rose all of that, we know the review has what we see on the side barriers. We jumped 12 hours earlier because Air was still know that there was a so, not wanting to download a philosophy, and importantly, the writer really points out himself, saying that this is odd. They are forced to stay in civilian clothing. They are not allowed to arm themselves. They are being kept in some sort of disaster location. Literally everyone around them. So yeah, he may not know that they are up next for airless speeds, but he is certainly thinking upon the fact that there will be here. Oh, and also talking about here that I thought was pretty neat, right there, there, told me. Which seems like subtle simulation.
If I got to this game,
it's the usual case of everyone's playing checkers while we run the chess. But to me at least, there does seem to be another that is design, really none of them use work. So the walls are shallow, quickly different blocks for the little the big one, although and stay with it as we get back to it. Notice Ryan the bear told you extremely short with the careful glass doesn't seem the walls really have been. I mean, yeah, this is a shock for everyone, but why is it that we specifically focus on him and his reaction is far more tense? Well, to him, this isn't a question of is the wall breached. To him, this is a question of what do we do now? If the wall really is breached, then chances are Marley is attacking. We literally lose it. And we also need to quickly look at her parents. We need to figure out what's going on with Annie. We need to inform them of what other parents knows already. Basically, they have like 300 things to consider, but they just need to regroup with Marley first and foremost, which is of course exactly what we'd see them attempt in just a second. And before I say anything else, this won't apply to a vast majority of you, but just in case, make sure you are sitting down because things are about to get wild. You ready? Look at the CGI horses. Yeah, CG. Very spooky, isn't it?
Oh no! Anyway,
The super interesting scene we get here is Nanaba and Nikkei trying to get a grasp on the situation. Earlier in season 1, I already mentioned how to Nikkei's supposed JoJo-like characterization of him having a super strong sense of command is something that sticks out to me like a sore thumb. Do I really like how that rat Jumping back on over to the one on fourth floor, this is where we get very, very the the benefit of hindsight, we of course know that it should be no longer that is where it gets happening. Actually, he will happily take his position because he wants to make sure that it's there, which is cool and all, but it's far more important. He's not here to make himself, and that's exactly what he's doing. So, if this was an actual full-blown attack on Marley, yes, Reiner is very much trying to flog their one and only goal for you is to whoever, whatever. There is also a reason why Reiner is a trouble as well. The fact that the whole business kind of goes so will leave that a little bit. Jumping back on over to Tuesday, he says it'll go off solo, but and we also hear that this is on other. So, somewhere that nobody knows, Steve does take out poison maps in front, but without the break the air. Okay, we know that look, you real good. It's all good for the game of the day. Okay, on a more all the first you get here are all just excellent. And I do think that we take our job from the game. To tell us that these characters are more than like he is more than that because he is also an excellent fighter. And the theory carry on with his I can't describe it like first off, notice how the visuals are now very much showing you that all of those random moments you saw are not yes, some of so I think there was also and also, just like I mentioned last time, my interpretation of the wall stretch down. This point, there also was the wall of the that may not work. All the while, super detailed eyes and transition into him waking up. First of all, just like with the bells ringing out signaling the supposed fall of Wall Rose, is just another case of cyclical storytelling, with us quite literally returning to where it all began before the walls fell. Secondly, this also neatly sets up Aaron avenging his mother by activating the Founder's power through contact with demons, as well as protecting him. So lastly, and far more interestingly to me, I think you could also take his actions on the foreshadowing toward the wrong. But instead of stopping her with the Founder's power, he ultimately protected her by allowing her to see the back. Okay, I admit that is true. So, here that I thought was a really nice touch. Plus, the viewers in equivalent for fun. But I do like the extra bit of realism. This has a little weird. Okay, I'm not getting this one. Because Aaron wants to get rid of it. And you know what else? Why are you get rid of it? Yeah, before he started the rumble. Seems like an odd dimension. Why not to wake up and make sure that there's something behind his heart? Sometimes I have to think about a whole bunch of like down saying that he's talking about the money which again, a nice bit of additional character. He's not just a fighter, he's on the spot. There is no point to exert him because there is still more what's still yet to come. That is further complicated by his right away, he knows how weird it was, because it's the first time that he ever seen a public show. And of course, the last side of the beast reveals himself to be a shifter by breaking the corridor rule. He grabs the horse, something that your type of beast will do, as a small window, really do not sense together. Though what absolutely is all-time great and at first watch is that unlike the rest of the show, this fight right from the get-go, he approaches the main all-time which you have already seen to the warriors and being able to control them. Not only that, he asks what OEM here is. They exhibiting intelligence, especially with the that not only anything, but about how it works. Keep in mind that C is very much a and also using absolutely love the world and literally working around the because, you know, your guy just face to face with the another thing to know is that so it wasn't clear enough, he also revealed that yes, he's another shipman. Though what is easily making it hard here is he's saying I'm pretty sure it's close. First of all, this is not only one. It's multiple languages and whoever else from the outside world has reason to believe that their language made a difference. That is exactly how Ryan would notice that a fluent is not a and even to be honest, I love the stories of corporate language as part of story. Forgot completely explicit. Like, yeah, writing a story where two characters literally can't communicate because of a language barrier is obviously redundant. But incorporating it in some fashion, like you see here, or in something like Game of Thrones, I think it adds a really interesting dimension that allows for cheeky moments like Reiner noticing the foreign text, etc., etc. Though we are still not done with our big monkey, because as Zeke starts walking off, just babbles on about the ODM here, he gets very much echoing exactly what he said before. Even now, never lost a though the Titans Moon get what is easily one of the most important events in the series as the case of just like that, the Titan it showed that he not only has an immense powerful ability but he also really very dangerous and the last thing to talk over there is your or more commonly known as literally the rest of the series. Prince, the symbolic devil in this video. The next shot we get of a Titanic figure being attacked by land forces, struck down by lightning, also pretty similar to deep lightning. And of course in the visual sense, it further builds on that also, if you go frame by frame, you can see the can of herring that would expose in the alcohol, while also exposing the concept. Keep in mind that within the wall, we are basically operating with the medieval setting. We cannot can this. So yes, this is very much saying there is someone out there with the marvelous knowledge. And later we of course also learn that it is herring that can talk within the wall. If you continue going frame by frame, you will also notice the number of important songs. Aaron won't have the long wait, which, just like I mentioned, way back in the first video here, reinforces the concept of very important role. If you continue going frame by frame, then yes, it's a bit of a stretch, but you also see what looks like the boss of the enough, as what Aaron said is done to the mind. We then see Rose, Mari, and Aaron that is then used first which says that these are meant to be research notes from Tom Saber, the future of these Titans who work in psychology. Then there are shots of Titans emerging from the water and tracking the coastal effect. But it doesn't have coastal. Detailing the outside world is strict and cool, and our entire mission leading up to so this is the original thing. And then there's also a shot of the here I think we could take the simple as a mosaic and how the world the situation is portrayed here. Though they eventually all get captured and turned into themselves, depicted by the Titan attack here. There's also shots of what looks to be a Marley attack on a different nation, with it being Titans and then launching assaults. And then, of course, the money shots. Dozens of lumbering Titans flattening the earth, or, straight up the rumbling. If you keep going frame by frame from the rumbling, you'll also notice a whole bunch of shots of the church and the wall religion, very much implying that they knew of all of this, and this is the dark underbelly of what they've been praying for. With Nick's face literally being shrouded in complete darkness as we see the Titans marching up. So again, very much our Ragnarok. We also see hundreds and hundreds of people all heading toward the sun, which by previous King Fritz moving the audience to parody in the first place. Something that is only further corroborated by the shot of Mir with a horn, symbolizing her wiping their memories. Also in the Mir shot, you can see all 9 of the Titan shifters. There's also the shots of those same flowers, which we've seen many times before, so I won't rehash that again. And of course, the obligatory bird flying in freedom, just like Aaron would eventually see himself. So yes, very much showing us the past, the present, and the future. Almost as if to tell us that all of this is one big time loop, huh? And with that, that is episode 26, or the first episode of season 2. Another big one, and trust me when I say, I think there's like 20 more minutes you could spend on the ending alone. Like, I didn't even mention the fact that the song itself is just so eerie that it straight up sends chills down my spine every single time I hear it. And then you combine that with all the really spooky visuals, and then the lyrics of a bird in a cage and being next to you every day, because, in here is looking out at all times. And the song itself is also called The Bird at Dusk, while the lyrics talk about a morning. So, those shots of the rock seems like the dusk, and then 8:45 sure seems like the morning, huh? It still blows my mind that it was ever allowed to air, and then it flew right over my head for such a long time. But anyway, now it's full steam ahead to the Titan's flashing arc, and what is, in my opinion at least, still one of top 3 Attack on Titan episodes in the Big Wall sequence. So I hope to see you back then as we continue overanalyzing Attack on Titan. And that's the video. Super excited to be jumping into season 2 and not talk about Airwind's 300 IQ clicks per week. The whole thing takes place during 2 days. It's definitely a wild season, but it'll be a ton of fun. Anyway, with that, I want to say a massive thank you to our current patrons and YouTube members who allow me to produce even more for you all. Without you, there'll be a whole lot of and seriously, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. Instead, hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Cares when it hurts.
The opening sequence of episode 27 is both just some basic recap, but also our first explicit acknowledgement of the reason why Aaron's squad was isolated. The very first shot we get is Mika in the previous episode saying that most likely no one in Aaron's squad is a shifter, as they are all currently in place, and despite the supposed breachment of the wall, none of them was sent home. So that is then immediately followed by Armin noting that their squad was detained over suspicions of harboring more Titan shifters. Something we have talked about ever since the female Titan mission, but is now only explicitly addressed in the show. So from this point on, every single decision made by Erwin is with the assumption that even now there is likely a traitor among the 104th Corps. Only problem is our scouts are very, very unlucky, so just like with Danny appearing completely out of the blue, before we could actually deal with any of these concrete suspicions, Zeke would be spearheading an entirely independent attack, which obviously throws a spanner in everything we'd be seeing, as we don't even know he exists. And again, this is neatly encompassed with Armin's usual, however, very much implying that even now we really know next to nothing about what's truly going on here. As for the title of the episode, I'm Home, I think there are two quite straightforward interpretations. Firstly, we of course have Sasha, who returns home, both very literally as well as figuratively. We'll talk about it plenty in the episode itself, so that's where I'll leave that for now. And in a similar vein, we have Connie also returning to his hometown, though with him, things would go very, very differently. And yeah, this too we'll tackle in just a little bit. Moving into the episode itself, we open with everyone being alerted of this new supposed breach. Though importantly, once we jump on over to Aaron's squad, Armin begins to ponder some very, very important questions. Without now being fully aware that there are in fact Titans within the walls, they naturally ask the question of why would Titans attack a wall housing other Titans? And that is of course when Armin drops the bombshell that, in hindsight, we know to be at the very heart of the Marley mission. They never attacked the wall, they only ever busted open the gates. Just like with the wall Titan they discovered by accident, if Marley had attacked the wall itself, it kind of would have started the rumbling. Kind of sort of the direct opposite of what they were trying to achieve. And now that we also have people like Pastor Nick, who are well aware of what lies within the wall and were supposedly trying to keep that safe, suddenly all of the attacks from the Colossal happening exclusively at the gates of protruding districts no longer seem like a coincidence. Unfortunately, though, the deductions of our glorious ballhead wouldn't really reach anyone else, so they would still set off and survey the entire wall trying to find out whether there's some entry points. But even now, you should already be thinking that, yes, it is a futile task, as if there was a breach, it would only be at the gates. Though in hindsight, we of course know that there was never a breach at all, and the Titans are simply inhabiting the Rodney. And as Armin continues his speculation, he arrives at another very important conclusion regarding Annie's crystallization of the walls. He knows that the walls themselves appear to be completely seamless. There are no joints, no cuts, nothing to indicate they were ever actually built by someone. And then proposing that it might be the same as Annie's crystal. Something that we can now confirm to be 100% true because it is just a layer of hardening on top of the wall Titans themselves. Though yeah, as per usual, it's all of these little scenes where we see people speculate about what's going on, where we can really quickly piece together exactly what's actually happening. We then jump on over to Hanji who's researching the crystal. And yes, before I started the series, I did seriously consider using this frame for the ever infamous overanalyzing scene. So I guess this is what that would have looked like. But okay, my nonsense aside though, there's a whole bunch of things to note right off the bat. First off, obviously Hanji holding the crystal at all is already a point of intrigue, as all the matter the normal way. The crystal appears to be permanent. So with this in mind, we come to the conclusion that we might be able to use it to plug the walls. Though more importantly, we now know that humans can shift into a Titan form. We know these human shifters can use this hardening. And now we have a wall filled with Titans that is covered by that same hardening. So at this point, there is a good argument to be made that the mystery is cracked. The walls were built by another human shifter. And then when you think back to all those mysterious flashbacks we got of Aaron and his father, suddenly all the pieces start fitting together, and perhaps there is more to Aaron than we might have thought. Though secondly, and this is a bit of a broader talking point, Note that every single thing following this point happens in ridiculously fast succession. Like, for context, the rest of the season literally happened within the space of like 20 to 30-ish hours. Everything from Zeke turning Ragato into Titans, to us finding out that Amir is also a Titan, to us confronting Reiner and Bertholdt, to Eren awakening the Founder for the very first time, everything happened within like 12 hours. Not only that, Eren is still swarming questions about what happened in Stolas. So even though, at this point, we would have all the information on Reiner and Bertholdt in time for those conversations, Eren just literally didn't have enough time to get into the watch. So just like with the Beast, going in spattering their entire plan, the Beast Titan 2 was fighting for over Eren's ability simply because he didn't even know something like that existed.
Right now, it's only at 20,000 still.
Then moving during the nighttime, something that, like we said before, would happen to far safer. And if they were operating under normal circumstances. Normal case no power for sunlight, so
On stage. Is your eye goes that action?
Though with Zeke's power,
Yeah.
I got natural instinct and
Is it Elder?
but yeah, the shot of them just disappearing into the night.
And it's not you. It's still at 20,000 action. This guy.
Obviously, a whole bunch of drama breaks out about why all this time.
If you don't have the giant mutation, it's not over 20,000 pounds.
Since saying that they are something that does seem to be level-headed, but still not down for whatever his cause is, and then wondering what might be more important than literally all of the humanity in the world. In hindsight, we of course know that all of this was led with the belief that the purpose of the wall.
It's been there.
Originally, the walls were constructed as the ultimate form of deterrence, so the wall religion upheld it as such. The true nature of the wall is a secret as a form of...
From the Blood Moon event, Ash.
Then, as long as no one tried using the power of the walls, no one could attack them. And for Nick, he would hold that vow, even in spite of the events of launching up the shots and everything happening in the present case. As of right now, though, I think he's going him with two different roles. One with the hope of breaking him when he sees thousands of refugees.
Wait, there's no way that boy ate that whole pizza.
Else who might know about the
Huh?
walls, he would now be able to keep in mind that Airwind was already the mega sense of everything going on with the NP.
There's Ash. Damn it, did he leave at least 3 seconds? Oh my goodness, hold my hand. Oh. It's interesting.
All humans are just exactly like it's the entire world turning their sights on them. But leading up to that point, many of these beliefs are too idealistic and something, which in turn just though even in spite of once his daughter's killer still takes her into the life of daughter. She was protected by they were with her. I don't blame her for that. She killed her daughter, but again, very Even someone who feels it eventually just like in the real world before urbanization began, these scattered villages actually housed most of the population. This in turn means that this wasn't another full-blown attack from
Let
Mars.
me eat, bro. This guy's here. I know you're a baby, but you're a teen. Move. I mean, that's not full grown, because they're way bigger than that.
So now that we only have two walls, well, people are naturally even more concentrated. And so, even a comparatively smaller attack would still result in insurmountable losses simply because civilians have no means of fighting back. In hindsight, it of course also helps explain why a comparatively large number of Chinese disappeared on Earth. Even if it was just rocket it still housed the
What? What? You want to say something you don't want to follow through? What are you doing here? Oh, he's fully grown. He's small. No, he's not. He's middle aged. That snake. I don't know why I said spider. It's not. Well, that thing's not fully grown. He gets like triple its size when it's fully grown. I already played as it before. Why did you say it wasn't fully grown? I mean, why did you say it was fully grown? Okay. Actually, he gets the wings that have his teen age, which he's already. So his baby age, he doesn't have wings. He's only able to swim. He's semi-aquatic. Then he gets wings at teen age, and then he gets like triple size bigger at his freaking adult age, bro. What the heck? I mean, act smart that. I have the creature. Yeah, I deleted the creature because how bad it was. It does no damage. It only does freaking poison. And it's bad against all my other creatures, so. I use it every way possible to swoop down, stun them, attack them, do everything. It's just because it doesn't do that much damage. It does low damage, so. Hmm? You suck, kid. You shut up. Go in your room and beat it. Good boy. Ew. Ooh. Crazy. So cloudy. When's Mythical gonna come around? Or Mythic, whatever it's called. Is that a cockroach? Yeah, you know. Is that a fire? That boy is gonna age up before this thing ends. I don't know if that's the question. So. Mm-hmm. Things in there is clean, but